Hello dear students, welcome back to the biology online class. In the previous classes we have studied about the general characters of kingdom Monera, Protista and fungi, right? So today let me introduce the next topic, that is kingdom Plantae. Now coming to the characters, it includes all plants, and the plants are eukaryotic in nature and contains chlorophyll pigment. So what is the meaning of eukaryote? So eukaryotes are nothing but which possess well-defined nucleus. Based on the presence or absence of nucleus, the animals or the organisms are grouped into two types, right? Prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So here eukaryotic means the members possess well-defined nucleus. Am I clear? Okay. And majority of the plant members possess chlorophyll pigment, and because of the presence of this pigment, the plants are autotrophic in nature. Okay, so majority of the plant members possess chlorophyll pigment, so as a result of this they are autotrophic in nature. Okay, but a few members of kingdom Plantae are partially heterotrophic, such as the insectivorous plants, or they may be parasites. For example, Cuscuta. So, majority of the plant members are autotrophic in nature, but a very few members may be heterotrophic or parasites. And examples for heterotrophic members, insectivorous plants like bladderwort and Venus flytrap. And example for parasitic plant, it is Cuscuta. Okay. Now coming to the groups under kingdom Plantae, it includes algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. So these are the groups under kingdom Plantae. Once again I'll repeat: algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. Am I clear? Okay. Now coming to the life cycle of plants. The plants has two phases in its life cycle. They are diploid sporophytic phase and haploid gametophytic phase. And these two phases alternate with each other. And this phenomenon is called as alternation of generation. Okay. So what is the difference between sporophytic and gametophytic phase? So during the life cycle of the plant produces the spores, and this spore producing phase is called as sporophytic phase. Okay, whereas the gametophytic phase means it produces the gametes, and gametes are always haploid in nature. Clear? Okay, so these are about the life cycle of plants, which possess two phases: diploid sporophytic phase and haploid gametophytic phase. And these two phases alternate with each other, and the phenomenon is called as alternation of generation. Is that clear? So this is about the characters of kingdom Plantae. Now moving on to the next kingdom, that is kingdom Animalia. So let us see the characters of kingdom Animalia. They are multicellular, heterotrophic, eukaryotic organisms without cell wall. Okay, so here the kingdom Animalia, it mainly includes animals. Okay, and here the animals are multicellular. What is the meaning of multicellular? Multicellular means the body is made up of many cells. Okay, so here the animals are multicellular in nature, made up of many cells. They are heterotrophic. Why it is heterotrophic? Because they do not possess chlorophyll pigment, correct? So because of the absence of chlorophyll pigment, they are heterotrophic in nature. That means they cannot synthesize or they cannot produce their food. Okay, and they are eukaryotic, means they possess well defined nucleus. Okay, then what is the difference between the plant and the animal cell? So plant cell, it possesses cell wall. So uh, what is the composition of cell wall? So this cell wall is mainly made up of cellulose, correct? And this cell wall is the external covering layer of the plant. Okay, whereas in animal, the animal cell do not possess cell wall. So that means cell wall is entirely absent. Instead of cell wall, they possess cell membrane. Am I clear? So this is about the first character. Moving on to the next character. They directly or indirectly depend on plants for their food, hence are heterotrophic in nutrition. They digest food in an internal cavity and store extra food in the form of glycogen or fat. Okay, so these animals, they directly or indirectly depends on the plants, and they digest the food in the internal cavity, and they store extra amount of food in the form of glycogen or fat. And mode of nutrition is here holozoic, means here taking food in through the mouth, that is by the ingestion of the food. Clear? Next character, they have a definite growth pattern and grow into adults that have a definite shape and size. Higher forms show sensory and neuromotor mechanism. So sensory mechanism means, sensory organ means it is the organ of the body which responds to the external stimulus. Whereas neuromotor mechanism means it is related to the nerve fiber. So higher forms of the animals show sensory and neuromotor mechanisms. Most of them are capable of locomotion, able to move, and sexual reproduction is here by the copulation of a male and female, by the mating of male and female individuals, followed by the embryological development. So these are about the characters of kingdom Animalia. Understood? Okay. Now we'll move on to the next topic of this chapter, that is viruses, viroids and lichens. In five kingdom classification of R.H. Whittaker, acellular organisms and lichens are not mentioned. So acellular organisms, which includes viruses and viroids. Okay, why they are referred as acellular? So what is the meaning of acellular then? Acellular means without the cell, non-cellular. Okay, so in five kingdom classification, these viruses, viroids and lichens are not mentioned. And the viruses, they are non-cellular, means without cell, and not truly living. That means outside the cell or outside the host, they are non-living. So they are not included in the five kingdom classification. Understood? Coming to the characters, viruses have an inert crystalline structure outside the living cell. That means for the activity of the viruses, they require living host tissue or host cell. Okay, without host, the virus is inactive. Am I clear? Okay, so viruses, they possess crystalline structure, means the structure of the virus is mainly composed of crystals, and outside the host, these viruses are inactive. And when they become active, so for the activity of the viruses, they require living host. Okay, and viruses are obligate parasites. Parasites are nothing but which can cause diseases. Obligate means they are compulsory parasites. That means they compulsory depends on the host tissue. Am I clear? So when they infect a cell, that means when they infect a host cell, they take over the machinery of the host cell to replicate themselves, killing the host. So that means after infecting a living cell, these viruses make use of the protein synthesis machinery of the host cell for its multiplication. That means these viruses dominates over the host tissue, that is after infection. Okay, so when they infect the cell, they take over the machinery of the host cell to replicate themselves, thus killing the host. So once again I'll repeat, these viruses, they are acellular, means without the cell, and are not truly living. So they are not included in five kingdom classification of R.H. Whittaker. They possess inert crystalline structure outside the living cell. That means the structure of virus is composed of crystals. They are obligate parasites, can cause diseases in the host tissue or the host organisms. And after infecting the living cell, they make use of the protein synthesis machinery of the host cell uh, to replicate themselves, thus killing the host. So, in the year 1892, DJ Ivanovsky discovered the virus. He recognized certain microbes that cause mosaic diseases of tobacco, and these uh, microbes were smaller than bacteria because they pass through bacteria proof filters. So DJ Ivanovsky discovered the virus. But the term virus or the name virus was given by Louis Pasteur, which means virus means venom or poisonous fluid. Am I clear? Okay. So later in the year 1898, M.W. Bazernik demonstrated that the extract of the infected plants of tobacco could cause infection in healthy plants, and called the fluid as contagium vivum fluidum, means infectious living fluid. Okay, so in the year 1898, M.W. Bazernik demonstrated that the extract which was derived from the infected tobacco plant, it could cause infection in the healthy plant also, and because of that he called the fluid as contagium vivum fluidum. And later in the year 1935, W.M. Stanley showed that viruses could be crystallized, and crystals consist largely of proteins. Okay. Now coming to the structure of the virus. A virus is a nucleoprotein complex. What is the meaning of nucleoprotein complex? Nucleoprotein means it consists of both nucleic acid as well as protein. So, a virus is mainly made up of nucleic acid as well as protein. And here the protein component is called as capsid, or the protein coat is called as capsid, and nucleic acid, it is nothing but the genetic material, either it is RNA or DNA, and no virus contains both RNA and DNA. Either RNA or DNA is present, but no virus contains both the genetic materials. Understood? And the genetic material is infectious. That means they can cause the disease. Understood? Generally, viruses that infect plants have single-stranded RNA. So, the plant viruses or the viruses which infect the plants possess single-stranded RNA as the genetic material, whereas the viruses that infect animals have either single or double-stranded RNA or double-stranded DNA as the genetic material. Am I clear? The plant viruses possess single-stranded RNA as the genetic material, whereas the animal viruses or the viruses which infect animals possess either single or double-stranded RNA or double-stranded DNA as the genetic material. And the bacteriophages usually have double-stranded DNA. What is the meaning of bacteriophages? So, bacteriophages are nothing but these are the viruses which infect bacteria. Okay, once again I'll repeat, bacteriophages are nothing but these are the viral particles which infect the bacteria, and always they usually possess double-stranded DNA. Understood? Any doubts? Clear? Okay. Now coming to the component of the virus, as I said before, it mainly consists of two components, protein component as well as the nucleic acid. And here the protein component, it is in the form of protein coat. Okay, and this protein coat of the virus is called as capsid. Okay, the entire protein coat is called as the capsid, and this capsid is made up of many smaller subunits which are called as capsomere. So in the picture, now these are nothing but the entire protein coat, right? So these are nothing but the entire protein coat. So this entire protein coat is called as the capsid, whereas in the capsid it contains many smaller subunits. Many subunits are present in the capsid, and these subunits are called as capsomeres. So what is the difference between capsid and capsomeres? Capsid is nothing but it is the entire protein coat of the virus, whereas capsomeres are in the capsid of the virus. It contains many smaller subunits, and these subunits are called as capsomeres. Understood? And these capsomeres or the capsid, it protects the nucleic acid. And the capsomeres are arranged in helical, this is helical or polyhedral geometric forms. So these capsomeres are arranged either in helical form or in polyhedral geometrical form. Understood? Okay, these are about the capsid or the protein component of the virus. Now coming to the diseases caused by the viruses. Viruses cause diseases like mumps, smallpox, herpes, influenza and AIDS. So these are some of the diseases caused by the viral particles: mumps, smallpox, herpes, influenza, AIDS, etc. Okay. And in plants also, they produce certain diseases like mosaic formation, leaf rolling and curling, yellowing and vein clearing, dwarfing and stunted plant growth. So these are the pictures of plant diseases or the symptoms of viral diseases in plants. So mosaic formation. So this first image is the mosaic formation in tobacco leaf. So mosaic formation means it is the presence of some light and dark green patches in the leaves of plants, which is mainly caused by the viral diseases. So mosaic formation is nothing but it is the presence of some light and dark green patches in the leaves of the plants. Okay, so which is called as mosaic formation, patchy appearance. and this is leaf rolling or leaf curling. Okay, and this is yellowing or vein clearing. What is the meaning of vein clearing? It is nothing but a loss of normal green coloration of the plant veins, and usually they turn yellow due to the presence of viral particles. Okay, and the stunted plant growth means uh, the plants show reduced growth during the viral diseases. So reduced plant growth is called as stunted plant growth or dwarfism. So these are about the plant diseases caused by the viral particles. Am I clear? Now coming to the structures of tobacco mosaic virus and bacteriophage, these are very important. The structures are very important. Now the first structure is tobacco mosaic virus or TMV. So I'll explain the structure. This TMV, it is a tobacco mosaic virus which mainly attacks the tobacco plant, and this virus, it mainly composed of two components, the nucleic acid as well as the protein. And nucleic acid is here single stranded RNA. So this RNA is the genetic material in the TMV, whereas the capsid, nothing but the protein component, it is called as the capsid, right? And these capsid, it produces many smaller subunits which are referred as capsomeres. So these are the capsomeres. Understood? So the entire protein coat itself is called as the capsid, whereas the subunits of the capsid is called as capsomeres. Okay, so once again I'll repeat the structure. The TMV, it is rod shaped and mainly composed of two components, the nucleic acid and the protein component. The nucleic acid is here single stranded RNA, whereas the protein component is called as the capsid. And this capsid is made up of many smaller subunits, and the subunits are called as capsomeres. Understood? Now coming to the structure of bacteriophage. So this bacteriophage, it mainly contains two regions, head and the tail. So this is the head region and this portion is called as the tail. Now the head is polyhedral, means have many faces, and within the head it contains double stranded DNA which is in the folded form. Once again I'll repeat. The bacteriophage, it mainly contains two regions, head and the tail. The head is polyhedral, and within the head region it contains the genetic material, that is double stranded DNA which is in the folded form. Am I clear? Now below the head there is a neck and collar. Neck and collar regions are present, and below this there is a tail region. So this entire component forms the tail region, and in the tail it contains contractile sheath, and the contractile sheath is mainly made up of protein component. Understood? Okay, now the free end of the contractile sheath, that means this end, so this is the free end. Okay, now this free end of the contractile sheath is attached to the hexagonal structure which is called as end plate or basal plate. So now this is the free end of the tail region, and this free end is attached to the hexagonal structure. It is attached to the plate like structure and that plate-like structure is called as end plate. It is called as end plate or basal plate. And from the end plate, it contains 6 tail fibers. So these are the tail fibers. So from the end plate, 6 tail fibers are produced. Understood? So these are about the structure of TMV as well as the structure of bacteriophage. Understood? Any doubts? Clear? Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. So these are the pictures of different types of viral particles: tobacco, mosaic virus, adenovirus, influenza virus, and bacteriophage. So the next topic is viroid. So this viroid, it is an infectious agent. That means it can cause the diseases, and it mainly contains the RNA, whereas protein coat is absent here. So the difference between the virus and the viroid is, in viruses it contains the protein coat along with the genetic material, but in viroid it lacks the protein coat. That means protein coat is entirely absent and the genetic material is always here, RNA. Okay. And these viroids are smaller than viruses, and was discovered by T.O. Diner in the year 1971. He found that this viroid caused potato spindle tuber disease. So the disease caused by the viroid in potato plant is potato spindle tuber disease, and these viroids are smaller than the viruses and they lack protein coat but contains the genetic material RNA. And the next last topic is lichens. So lichens are the symbiotic associations between algae and fungi. That means these lichens are the dual organisms which contains both algae and fungi. The algal component is here called as phycobiont, and they are autotrophic in nature, whereas the fungal component is called as mycobiont, which is heterotrophic in nature. Okay, once again I'll repeat. So lichen is nothing but it is the dual organism which contains both algae and fungi. So the algal partner in the lichen is called as phycobiont, and the fungal partner is called as mycobiont. So the algal partner is autotrophic in nature, whereas the fungal partner is heterotrophic. Understood? So these are the images of different types of lichens. There are different types of lichens are there, and algae in the lichen, it prepare food for the fungi, whereas fungi provide shelter and absorb mineral nutrients and water for its partner, that means for the algae. And these lichens are very good pollution indicators, means they do not grow in polluted areas. So because of that because of this character, the lichens are referred as pollution indicators. They do not grow in the polluted areas. Understood? So these are about the explanation of viruses, viroids and lichens, and that completes the chapter biological classification. Hope you all understood the class. Thank you.